So chapter 164 of One Punch Man got some redraws, and they are some crazy friggin' redraws. I mean, the ending of the chapter is completely different. I want to say that this was going to happen eventually, but, you know, I guess maybe Marauder or One thought the pacing was a little off, so they kind of just wanted to bring the action, as you know, right up front before all the talk no jutsu stuff. So this one, it starts off the same with, you know, Garo and Saitama fighting. Garo's getting frustrated. You know, that we see that scene with the people in the plane on the other side of the planet and the shockwaves, you know, saving them, and this temple getting revealed. But where it starts to kind of diverge is that we don't see as much of Blast and his crew. We actually don't see their faces at all. We just see kind of like the little monologue he gives where he says the Earth's magnetic gravitational fields are going crazy. A spatial distortion is creating a hole in the dimensional seal. And then when he says that bastard's gonna break through, we've got to hurry and repair it. You don't actually see them, you know, spring into action like you do in the last chapter. But once we get back to the fight, we see, you know, Saitama and Garo continuing. Garo's eating all these punches and feeling like just complete despair of a loss like he was in the last chapter. And another major difference is where Garo gets back up from the water to fight Saitama. Instead of Saitama stopping the fight and saying that we need to talk and, you know, stuff like that, he just blasts him right in the face and sends him flying out of his, like, you know, monster, you know, outer skin or whatever you want to call it. And as this is happening, we see this like tornado, you know, thunder funnel thing coming out of the sky. I don't know what to call it. And then we see this panel, and right when I saw this panel, I knew it was coming. You just see the sky and I can hear you. And Saitama, I'm guessing, maybe hears this because he says and then it continues on with this, you know, comical scene where Tank Top Master sees everybody and they kind of are, you know, like, why the hell are you so thick? But then we get back to Saitama and Garo, and he says, what's up with that cloud? Or, you know, at least somebody from the last panel might have been saying that. And boom, we see God's foot just come crashing down into the water. And then we see another foot. So here we're thinking, like, okay, is he like just about to pop out now, you know? And if you notice, that moon with the crater still in the far left corner. So, you know, definitely some symbolism that God's always watching. You see these thunder storm clouds in front of the bystanders, and you see that you don't see the feet. I don't think Saitama sees the feet either popping out. So I'm assuming this is kind of like when you touch the cube and you kind of go to this, you know, dimensional space where only you and God can communicate, and only he can see you, you can see him. Because in the panel below, you see Garo kind of being lifted into the air by God with his feet, you know, hanging on the ground. And he starts talking to him. He says, Garo, and then Garo responds, who are you? And he says, your deepest wish is now on the verge of falling apart into futility at the hands of a single hero. And Garo kind of talks back and says, shut your mouth, you want to get killed? And God says, there's only one fist that can counter the fist that has turned against God. What do you think that is? And Garo says, what are you trying to say? What the hell are you, asshole? Show your face. And with this panel, it confirms that God knows about Saitama, and he knows about his power and how strong he is. So that's very, very interesting. I thought he was kind of oblivious to him like everybody else is, you know? And then in the next page, we see someone chuckling, this kind of silhouetted figure that we don't know yet, and it says, and here I am trying to help you out. And Garo is looking at this figure, and he notices that it's Silver Fang, because he says old man. And then, you know, Silver Fang, quote unquote, God says there is no master who would just sit back and watch as their student gets beaten. And then he says, come, and has his hand out, just like Blasted, or like the you know, fake God version of Blasted when Tatsumaki was passed out and heavily damaged. So in the next panel, we see God kind of lifting Garo into the air, and you see those like weird ripply like skin stuff that, you know, basically makes up God's whole body. And we see Garo come back down, and Saitama says, "What's with the quick costume change again?" And he kind of wipes his eyes to take a look at him because he looks different now. As we can see in this next panel, he looks like his, pre-gargoyle form, but with like galaxies and stars all over his body. And we see, Saitama say, "Garo, what's up with your face?" And then Garo says, "Something that can counter the fist that has turned against God. I guess that'd be the fist of God." And Saitama just says, sounds like he's talking in a bathroom or something. And I guess at this point we can kind of just figure out how he sounds just based off of that. I know I kind of got a good idea of it. And then we see Garo prepare to fight, and he's revealed as Awakened Garo Cosmic Fear Mode. And the chapter ends. Now this is obviously completely different from where we left off last chapter with, Saitama and Garo having a sit down, and they're about to have a whole talking session. But I guess Murata and One didn't want to have that take up an entire chapter in the heat of all this action. So my guess is that this was going to happen after that conversation, because we see in the panel when they're sitting down that you still see the moon with the eye of God watching. So eventually I feel like this was going to happen, but I feel like the talking session is going to come after this fight now. Now, this is also interesting because we know that Blast and his team's coming, so what are they going to, what part are they going to play in this? Are they just going to be in the background closing the dimensional seal, making sure that God doesn't get out? Or are they going to fight Garo? And then we're finally going to see that Boros versus Garo fight, even though it's not really, Boros, but, close enough, and it's as close as we're going to get to it. So I'm super excited about this chapter redraw. Usually the redraws are just kind of like meh, why would you even spend that time doing that? But like I said, I'm gonna make a longer video kind of going deeper into this chapter and what it means and where I think it's going to lead. So until then, I gotta get to work, guys, so I'll talk to you later. See ya.